All right, Newsom's been warning that we will not have an election in 2028. Let's take a look and see why he thinks. By the way, this morning, recommending that children don't take Tylenol, advancing further now in the aggression against Tylenol, but also vaccines, arguing that the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine should not be given as a one-dose vaccine, or sort of like one combined vaccine, rather should be given over time, and that hepatitis vaccine should be delayed. It's unclear where a lot of these sort of quote-unquote scientific claims are coming from beyond potential or loose links. I mean, we broke down, buying Tylenol stock was the video. We broke down the Tylenol analysis in depth and found only loose links between Tylenol intake during pregnancy and autism that don't clearly distinguish whether there was an increase of fractional increase in autism in children with mothers who were pregnant and took Tylenol due to the underlying symptom that they were treating or the drug itself. Of course, that's then where people get into the debate about depletion inside of the brain. And so people make arguments. We covered all of these studies in detail in that video. But these are just some extra things to keep in mind. Trump now also, Republicans have done very well, is convince that even if you're poor, voting for Republicans is the way to go. They'll cut your Medicaid, they'll ruin and bankrupt your farms, and they'll give tax breaks to the rich and companies like, NVIDIA or chip installers. But they'll do it with the American flag. This is to make America great. The Democrats don't really have any good messaging. Like, frankly, the best messaging the Democrats have right now are people like Mamdani, who's a commie, or AOC, may as well be, and then this guy, who sucks. So, I don't know, maybe the Pelosi's are an option? Probably not. You're too old at this point, but then again, age hasn't stopped other politicians. This is what he's trying to do, is... Literally, Colbert just told us, oh, you run on logic and not fear. And Gavin Newsom is now creating the fear that you might be stuck with Donald Trump forever. This is a pure fear campaign. What Newsom is trying to do is unite Democrats and people who are frustrated with Trump, because there are also Republicans who are frustrated with Trump, obviously fewer than there are Democrats who are frustrated with Trump, to unite all of them behind him. That's what this is how many zingers and headlines can you get to actually utilize the Trump playbook of always being in the news to consolidate people around you. Now, Donald Trump has this, just adds fuel to the fire, mused about this idea of, we'll decide if we're going to run for a third term or not. And he sort of said so half jokingly. Obviously, we know it's unconstitutional, but that does lead people to start wondering, what does he have up his sleeves? Some people, by the way, also talking about this big meeting with all generals and admirals coming in to the Quantico facility next week as really being a fidelity alignment meeting and basically getting the military to line up with the Trump agenda to politicize it. We're already seeing the squashing of free speech reporting inside of the Pentagon. Now everything needs approval before it can leave the Pentagon. Otherwise, you'll have your press credentials revoked. People suggest that utilizing the military could be a way to actually prevent an election in 2028 under some form of quote-unquote state of emergency. Oh, I need to stay in power because of, China or Russia or this, that, or whatever. So they kind of leave it on that. Mind you, a lot of these, when they do these shows, they kind of pre-practice them the day before, and they plan that out. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna cliffhanger that line there, so you could just look stern and powerful, and we'll zoom out and we'll just look at the faces here. Like, this is so planned media, So as part of this Late Show, they also talked about let's see, what did they have? We put a mirror up to the absurdity of Donald Trump's of Donald Trump. Okay, let's see what they say here. Because it is very common for politicians to lose in the midterms. Very, very common. There's a comment here. What's the difference between signing an NDA and the press not being allowed to disclose information from a government building? The difference is precedent. The press in America has regularly had unfettered access to the Department of Defense to provide reporting to the public on how our tax dollars are being spent. We fund the government with our hard-earned money that we get taxed with. They take that and spend it. We demand transparent reporting on what is going on. Where is the money being spent? What companies are benefiting from that spending? What politicians are involved in allocating spending? When we all of a sudden remove transparency from where we have always had it under Democratic and Republican institutions, we shroud government spending in secrecy. You should not defend the requirement that media individuals will have their press credentials revoked for reporting on what they're finding out inside of the Department of Defense, now Department of War. That has historically been a benefit to Americans that is now rug pulled. That's very different from signing like a corporate NDA where it's like, hey, we have we're going to tell you about corporate secrets. Duh.
In every category. Donald Trump is weakness masquerading as strength. He's weak in every key category. That's a fact.
That's not a fact. Donald Trump is pretty damn strong on the border. He's pretty damn strong with his aggression in the courts, in fighting. I'm not saying he is always right, but he is aggressive in the courts. He is not afraid to fight. He's not afraid to lose. So he goes for the fight. He's very aggressive on immigration and what we're seeing with the ICE raids. That's strength. Now, I disagree with how aggressive they're being with whom they're raiding. But that doesn't mean Trump isn't strong about it. I think it was strength to bomb Iran. Now, I think it was a mistake because Donald Trump then told us we're going to negotiate with Iran next week. Remember the chief minister of propaganda, the press secretary? She's like, oh yeah, we're going to be meeting with Iran next week. Never happened. Total bullcrap. There was never a deal with Iran. There was never a solution to what happened. All we did was send Iran deeper underground. So again, though, that is still strength. I think it was strength and a mistake because, oh wow, what's happening now? After U.S. strikes, Iran increases work at mysterious underground site called Pickaxe Mountain. No duh, because it's too deep for us to strike. We can't reach our bunker buster bombs there. So, no, Gavin Newsom, it is not, that's a fact, that Donald Trump is weak. He literally just said Donald Trump is weak, and that's a fact. No, it's not. There are plenty of examples of Donald Trump being very strong. Now, it can be strong and wrong in some cases, but there are plenty of cases where Donald Trump is very aggressive in what he wants. You can even say that what he's doing with his government shutdown is strength. It's, hey, we're going to brand it on Democrats. Our goal is to shrink the size of government. We're going to fire a bunch of people if, the government shuts down. It's going to be both Democrats and Republicans' fault if there's a shutdown because both sides are being stubborn. Donald Trump will brand it as Democrats' fault, but he'll use it as an opportunity to let Vought go to hell and fire a bunch of people. He's going to come in with like the Grim Reaper. Those are forms of strength. So no, Gavin Newsom, you're wrong. You're trying to say that Donald Trump isn't strong. That doesn't land because you're wrong. Again, by the way, who has been on my plane, I agree that Abbott, by the way, is a total shill for the Trump administration. And that's why I think when unemployment claims came in strong like 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden you had the state of Texas that's like, we had this unusual spike of fraud claims on unemployment claims because it was tanking the market a smidge. And as soon as they cleared that up, we hit our $600 price target on the triple Qs. Go meet Kevin membership. But it's like, come on, man. We're starting not to trust some of the data anymore, right? This is where Trump is being strong on data, but it's wrong again, right? You frackin' weenie little bitch. We need the National Guard in California. In 2021, before anybody talked about deploying the National Guard, I ran a campaign for governor against this very guy. And I said, we need the National Guard to stop people dying on our streets. Let's situate it. Stop the homeless crisis. No more encampments. No more people dying on the streets. No more drugs. Let's solve the mental health crisis. Let's spend the money. Let's cut the money on your stupid bullet train, and let's spend the money on things that need to be done, like making our streets safe. If we need to use the National Guard to temporarily do that, we pay for it. Because America should be safe. I stand with Donald Trump on this. And you know me, I shit on all the politicians. I crap on Biden. I crap on Trump. I crap on them all because I think they're all a scam. But I stand with Trump on the use of the National Guard because our streets should be safe. I actually think Trump took the idea from me. I know I'm just patting myself on the back right now, but then again, you know, how could you blame me?
Kevin is very talented. But I don't know if it's going to be him, but he's a very talented guy.
Kevin's somebody we consider. Kevin is fantastic, too.
Yeah, we know they're watching, okay? So take the ideals from the campaign. When I ran for governor and said, if I lose, the best thing that could happen is my ideas end up getting implemented by other people. Trump's deploying the National Guard? Dude, I had the biggest smile on my face. I'm like, hell yeah. So this idea, Trump is...
Bans ICE from concealing their identities, which is a great idea.
I actually don't think that's a great idea. Listen, you could be upset. I have said in this segment, I don't like what ICE is doing. I don't like it at all. Okay, I think it's wrong. That said, it is the policy of the president. And will I say that ICE shouldn't be able to protect their identity? So when they go walk around Walmart with their kids, they don't have to worry about getting stabbed or shot? Nah, man. Let them wear masks. Let them do their jobs. And let them I have no problem whatsoever with law enforcement concealing their identities. This is why cops, you have to understand, this is normal. And I was a law enforcement explorer for 3 years. I have 2,000 hours on the road. The reason why cops often don't live where they work is because when they go to Trader Joe's and they just want to take their, 6-year-old or 7-year-old to Trader Joe's or to the park, and then they see some scumbag that they threw in jail for, drug trafficking or whatever, that's a little uncomfortable encounter at the playground. It's not safe. Keep in mind, the place to disagree with law enforcement is in court. If ICE comes up to me, points a gun at me and says, hands up, hands behind your back, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to cooperate. I ain't getting shot. Do you think that now I'm going to get manhandled or punched in the face or beaten or whatever? You start going, why? Why? I'm a citizen. I have rights. Bro, deal with that later. That's what courts are for. But you have to realize law enforcement has powers that can be abused, which that's what the courts are for, to remedy. But what if I go walk outside and somebody says, hey, there's a guy with short shorts and a Tesla Cybertruck sweater, and he's got a gun and he's pointing it at people. And then cops come up, and it's totally, maybe a total bullshit report, right? And then cops come up like, get on the ground, get on the ground. It's like, man, I'm just going to get on the ground. I could be a citizen, which I am. I could be totally right. They could be totally wrong. At that moment, the law enforcement officers have probable cause to detain me up until the point that they verify, no, there's no gun, he's a citizen, and then you get released. That's how law enforcement in the country works. But if somebody says put your hands behind your back and they got a badge and they're deputized and they got a gun and you're going to do that, no, I have rights, you're going to get your ass thrown to the ground and you're going to get beat. So wake up, understand how the law in the country works, and get over it. It is what it is. Now, we can disagree with what ICE is being told to do, which I do. I'm making that clear. I don't agree with all the ICE raids. But, some of these like complaints are just nonsense, and they're usually founded in people not understanding how law enforcement actually work. Probable cause to arrest, wrong. You only need reasonable suspicion to detain someone up until the point that you can ascertain you have probable cause to continue the detainment in the course of you exploring your investigation and conducting your investigation, or you verify that you no longer have the right to detain someone, in which case you must release them, right? So, and a detainment can look like an arrest, because if somebody's not cooperating, they get handcuffs put on them, which is just a form of a secure detainment. Technically, there's a difference between detainment and arrest, but you know, the handcuffs aren't exactly the signal for that. Anyway, look, we could go on and on about law enforcement and how law enforcement actually works. But the point here is, bottom line, Gavin Newsom is trying to outrage his way into the Democratic leadership position. The problem is the Democratic Party doesn't have a platform. You know, Gavin Newsom is doing the typical Democratic thing where it's like, oh, Trump is a dictator, these abuses, and Trump is weak, which we, you know, have disagreed with. But there's no unified platform. If Democrats actually stood on a platform rather than complaining about the use of the National Guard to protect our streets and our citizens, rather than complaining about that weak argument, why don't you come up with a real platform? And then you could have a leader. Socializing grocery stores in New York City probably isn't a good platform, but whatever. That's my take on this Newsom disaster.
Knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.